Theory.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a new series called Juxtapose. What? Juxtaposition is the act of two things being seen or placed close together with contrasting effect. A classic example would be show a video clip of someone staring sadly, and then placing another clip beside it of a sandwich on a plate. By showing these two shots next to each other, we, as the viewer, think that this poor man is hungry, when in reality it is just two separate video clips. In our minds, we form a story, and this concept helps us understand things and make connections. Juxtapose, the series, will be just that, but instead of individual shots, we are going to put two theories side by side. Your favorite video game theories will be pitted against each other, and it will be up to you to decide which one is the reigning champion. Theories can often start off in a similar fashion, but take different directions as they unfold. Because of that, there could be multiple interpretations of the same topic, but that's entirely what makes them fun. There's always the possibility that the answer lies somewhere in between as well, and by analyzing both as a whole, perhaps you'll be able to chime in and share your thoughts on the matter. There are no right or wrong answers, but it sure is a lot of fun to speculate. With that said, let's begin the video. Hello everyone, and welcome to Juxtapose. In the red corner, we have our brother from another mother, Earthbound to the Underground, the Sans is Ness theory by the Game Theorists. And in the blue corner, we have the Sultan of Swing. The Sans might be a human, but probably not. Is Sans a human theory by SwankyBox, who is also the guy who was making this video, which seems extremely biased. However, there is no room for bias in this ring, and scrutiny will be dealt cold to all who enter. And with that said, let's dive right in. Sans the Skeleton is a favorite of many. From his humorous puns to his fixed, goofy expression, there is a lot to love, but also a lot to ponder about. There is something odd about this skeleton that many people have tried to figure out, myself included. Soon after Undertale's release, I gathered my thoughts into a theory video about the possibility of Sans being a human and released it to the world. In the months that followed, a few other theorists joined the fray, but it wasn't until half a year later that one of the more interesting contenders to Sans' identity joined the battle, and that was when the Game Theorists shared their thoughts. Now, both videos touch on the topic of Sans being more than meets the eye. And honestly, both videos also contain heavy flaws as well that hinder their believability. But we do have to remember that they are both just theories for the sake of fun and fulfilling curiosity. Also, if you haven't watched both videos, you should probably do so below in the description, as this video will be analyzing both concepts. Starting off, let's take a trip down Swanky Lane. In Is Sans a Human?, I discussed the various traits of Sans that made me scratch my head while playing the game. He's quite wide for a skeleton, which led me to believe that this could have potentially been a costume. I further drew support by the fact that Sans' mouth didn't move at all when he talked, unlike all the other characters in the game. It reminded me of a skeleton mask, and in particular, the one that Beryl wore in The Nightmare Before Christmas. The argument was that a mask shouldn't be able to wink, as Sans does throughout the game. In addition, it appeared that Sans was breathing in his fight, whereas other characters in the game lacked idle combat animations. After Sans' fight in the genocide route, he begins to bleed, which makes things even more interesting. I then analyzed his clothes, and then stated at the time it was difficult to determine if Sans wore a white shirt beneath his hoodie, or if it was just a bare ribcage. At the time in mid-October, official artwork showed both variants, and the fan art was a fraction of what it is now. His chest looked like it was an exposed ribcage to me, whereas others saw a shirt and zipper teeth. The genocide attack's cut was completely across his chest, and he began to bleed from his wound and his mouth. Many people argued this could be ketchup, but if it was, it would have simply drained out of him as soon as he ate it, much like the drink does in the Kickstarter video. The argument in the video was that this may have been an outlier due to being shown while the game was still in development, and that the spine and torso we are seeing are actually a costume, because if they weren't, the front of the neck bone should have been covered in blood too, if blood is coming out of the mouth. With that said, this theory paints a picture that Sans may actually be a human in disguise. On the other hand, the game theorists take a different route altogether. The game theorists start off by discussing that Sans has a kinship with other humans by having knowledge of the sun, whereas other monsters do not know what it is. Sans talks about wanting to go home and go back, as if he belongs somewhere. Other dialogue hints at this as well. Based on what Sans says, it's almost as if this place he came from is gone, or that he is from a different time. They then go on to discuss Sans' teleportation ability and how he has a secret workshop beneath his house. Within this workshop, MatPat then goes on to talk about the photos and the mysterious badge that is mentioned down there, and that this badge could quite possibly be the Franklin badge from the Mother series. Alongside this, Sans also has a photo album within his lab that has people in it that you don't recognize, and that these people could be from Earthbound. Keyword is people, as it doesn't label them as monsters in the text. The machine in the lab could have a correlation to when you have to go back in time in Earthbound through the phase distorter, and that this phase distorter could be the damaged machine behind the curtain. Mr. Sans are also known for their unique linguistic style, which compares to the illegible handwriting on the blueprints. The only issue with this phase distorter is it can't transport organic material. So if Sans used his machine when he was a human, he would have been turned into a skeleton. This is also why Sans gave up going home, as this machine also put him in a different time. Further support for this Earthbound crossover is the similarities between determination and courage within the games, and what they are capable of. In addition, the above-ground world of Undertale has striking similarities to that of Earthbound, from the beach to the mountains and the cityscapes. Papyrus' attire also hints strongly at this due to him having a direct reference on his armor to the Starman of Earthbound. With all this said, MatPat then explains that Sans could quite possibly be Ness from Earthbound, and that all these items within the lab were carried with him through the phase distorter. The abilities and stature of Sans and Ness are also similar as well. Due to Toby Fox's previous work with the Earthbound hacks, it wouldn't be too far of a stretch to say that Toby Fox's past work was linked with his current game Undertale, and that the children from the hack are the people that Sans, or rather Ness, needs to always remember, as they were lost across time and he can never go back. Ness adopts the name Sans and is accompanied by a starman, whom is Papyrus, or so the theory goes. Both videos dive into the realm that Sans comes from a human background, and that he is more than meets the eye. However, within both of these videos are a few flaws or counterpoints worth noting. For starters, we'll tackle my video. When my video was released way back in October, I really only had the information that was discovered at that point and what I encountered in the game. The Undertale community was just getting around to populating the wikis, but new things were being discovered every day that could discredit what you were working on before. Now, I was pretty critical about how a mask shouldn't be able to wink, but truthfully, there's a lot weirder things that happen in the game, like the Skeleton Brothers sweating, to Papyrus growing eyeballs, etc. Alongside this, I was torn on the artwork. Temmie Chang released this image on Twitter which shows Sans in his usual costume, except you can clearly see his ribcage. Now, since this was put out 3 days after the game's release, and coming from someone who drew a lot of the art for Undertale, it was definitely a strong contender for showcasing what Sans is actually wearing. This is partially where I drew support from for a bulk of the video where I dove into how it could be a costume. However, this image and open-mindedness in what Sans was wearing was crushed due to most people seeing Drax drawing first via Steam. This version of Sans where he is wearing a turtleneck became the iconic visual for him soon after, and by November, not many people thought of Sans having an exposed ribcage. The funny thing is, I actually based my cosplay on the ribcage version of Sans in October because it was still up in the air. But Temmie's image was a stronger piece of evidence for me. Since then, we've had merchandise come out that makes things even more complicated in identifying what Sans wears. Official endorsed artwork also shows slippers, shoes, pink slippers, blue slippers, and the walking sprite shows white. Since all these had to have gone through approval before being sold, even though they are fan works before, they are now thrown into the pool of possibilities. And last, there's the topic of the blood we see when Sans is hit. If we don't consider the footage of Sans from the Kickstarter video an outlier, then in turn, it could debunk the whole video. Because of all this, there are several flaws or counterpoints in my video just due to how Undertale has evolved over the last 10 months since the video was released. In some ways, I think outfits were loosely left up to interpretation and were just established through sheer amounts of fan art. However, I do think even with these flaws, the video turned out to be an excellent catalyst for discussion. Switching gears, there are a few points worth noting about the Game Theorists video as well. For starters, while all the comparisons between the world of Earthbound and the Underground fit very well, and honestly the geological ones were pretty cool comparisons, the video is very surface level and absent of characters' intentions and relationships. Truthfully, to some degree, my videos suffer from this as well. Papyrus being a starman just doesn't fit at all. The brotherly relationship and care that is shown between Sans and Papyrus could not possibly exist between Ness and a starman. Majority of the time, Ness and his allies fought against the starmen, so it would be odd for this opposition to be reversed. Within the game, it also tells us that Sans helped Papyrus make the outfit he has on for the costume party, so there's that too. I'm also not sure about the phase distorter's role either, as it is hard to tell if a starman is a robot or an alien. And regardless of the two, neither would yield a human-like skeleton, especially when starmen appear to have tentacle-like arms. There's also the issue of transporting organic matter as well, because technically bones are still organic matter if I'm not mistaken. With that said, it is highly unlikely that Sans is actually Ness if we dive deeper into the theory past the surface level. There's also the issue of certain characters in Undertale having awareness of the game actually being a game of sorts, and how that would bode with Earthbound's involvement, but that's hypothetical as well. The last thing to note is that following the video's release, Toby sent out the following tweet but deleted it eventually. Its meaning I'll leave up to you to decide, but I figured it was worth throwing in here. Now obviously both of these videos are just theories made to be fun and explore the possible lore behind the game. Part of the charm can sometimes be going for the stretch of it all, and that's totally okay. However, over the course of time I've sort of changed my outlook on the subject, as there are many other avenues that this whole Sans debate can take. Personally, I think it's possible that Sans may not be a human or monster at all, and simply a hybrid of something that we don't understand. Or there's always a chance that skeletons are simply a classification of monster too. Much like traditional RPGs where you can fight random skeletons that range in a variety of sizes, Papyrus and Sans could just be that. Another interesting twist to all of this would be that at one point perhaps they were humans, but these bones were infused with determination similar to how our little flower friend was. This bleeding we see could simply be a manifested form of determination and neither ketchup or blood. On a different front, one of my favorite analyses on this topic is actually that Sans is potentially a revenant. That one is definitely worth checking out as well. Last but not least, there's always the off chance that Sans and Papyrus are both monsters, but also the two halves of Gaster. At first, I always thought it was odd that there weren't any other skeletons in the underground, but truthfully, there are very few multiples of any type of character in the underground. Usually each character is unique in its own right. It also appears there were plans for a Grandpa Semi character, which could have been an additional skeleton too. There's just so many different takes on all of this. However, circling back around to the topic of humans, there is still the chance that Sans is indeed a human. If this was the case though, it would lead to a lot more questions. If it wasn't Ness, and was a random human of some kind, why was this particular human in the underground? Why would or wouldn't they cross the barrier? And why are they assuming the role of a brother to a skeleton? It also begs the question as to why Asgore wouldn't have tried to capture them for an additional human soul. Was this why they were dressed up in a costume? On the flip side, if they are Ness, why does Ness suddenly have a huge change in personality? He has become quite the king of puns. With all this said though, it's now your turn to chime in. We've covered quite a lot of ground recapping these two theories and highlighting the potential counter-arguments to each. So now it's really up to you to decide which one you like better. Are you a fan of Sans' Secret Identity by the Game Theorists? Or perhaps is Sans a human by yours truly? Or maybe you have your own theory on the matter that explains the situation differently. Either way, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, no hard feelings. You might even enjoy or hate them evenly. I want to give a huge shout out to Malcolm Brown for lending me their musical talents for this video. Malcolm was the one who produced the orchestration and medley you heard throughout majority of the video. If you have the time, I definitely give his SoundCloud a whirl as there are a lot of awesome creations on there. I've put a SoundCloud link in the description below. And to piggyback off that, you can always follow me on Twitter as well to see what I'm up to. I try my best to read the comments on YouTube, but sometimes it can be a tad daunting due to the sheer amount I receive overall. You can also click that gear next to my name and join the notification squad, so you'll never miss any of my videos. And with that, thanks for tuning in to this critical skeletal analysis. If you'd like to join me on my YouTube voyage and continue on the journey to discovering the truth, then the subscribe button, is just what you're looking for. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers. You've made it to the end of the video, but wait, your quest isn't over yet. I hope you've enjoyed this newest addition to the channel. I think it will create a fun and interesting way to analyze theories across the board and pair some of your favorite theorists head to head. If you enjoyed the video, why not leave me a like or share it with a friend? It will help the channel grow. If you're hungry for other content, you can always check out more of my Undertale theories to the left. Or if Pokemon is your thing, you can always check out my video about how Pokemon Go is changing the world. There's a slew of other videos on my channel too, so regardless, I hope you enjoy. Don't worry, friends. Be patient. Your time is coming.